What a flawed game. Iron Man
Yeah?
2 is a
Good.
promising title,
I am Iron
and
Man.
it definitely has its
I said it,
moments.
and I mean
But, oh,
superhero.
the flaws.
And, I'm
The
telling you,
gameplay controls
it's
of
amazing.
Iron Man
But
2
what does it
are
mean?
very similar
Save the
to
world, change the
PSP's
world.
Resistance
What
Retribution,
does
in that the
it
thumb
mean?
pad moves your
Sure, it's great to
character,
say. It's
the
great to start
face buttons
foundations and
move
give
the
speeches,
targeting
raise a glass and tell
reticle,
ourselves we're making the
the
world
L and
better.
R buttons
But tell me,
fire weapons,
how can one
and
guy save the world?
there's an
It's not
auto
like I'm out of
lock-on
ideas.
that makes up
I'll
for
tell you
the
what it is.
imprecise
It's
nature
like every
of
time I
controlling a
start to get my
targeting
head around
reticle
something really
with 4
beneficial to
imprecise
mankind,
buttons.
like the free energy
Unfortunately,
initiative or
that's all the
global
two games
climate
have in
control.
common.
Some genius shows
Resistance
up with an army of killer
Retribution was
robots or some
challenging
other
and had a
ridiculous
huge
scheme for
variety of
world
enemies
dominance.
that required a
I have to drop
constant
everything
change in
and knock heads
tactics,
together.
whereas
Take a
Iron
walk,
Man
son.
2 has
Great
only a
company,
few
smart
enemy
people.
types, all
Not
of whom
start
were
smart,
absent
but
from
smart
class
enough.
on the day they
And they're
taught
trying to
basic
make an
combat
army of
tactics at
Iron Men.
Henchman
And
University.
they
The
can't even fit
D-pad
an
switches
operator in there,
weapons
so they're
and engages an
literally
area
brain dead.
scanner,
Sony,
but
me.
if anyone
I
can
got a
manage to
thing.
Talk to me, buddy.
use
Action at
the
the start
D-pad
guard
for
patch.
melee
Suit
attacks
up.
without swinging
Big
and
job,
missing every
dear hearts.
time,
Trust
I would
me.
have to see it to
I'm the
believe
man
it.
for it.
Walking
Iron
at
Man.
anything faster than
You
a
want the
snail's
best?
pace is a
You got
problem
the
too.
best. And I'm not
I
gonna
can
lie to you.
understand the
I
need
have no
to
idea how to
make
save
the
the
Iron
world.
Man suit
But
feel
I'm having a
heavy and
hell of a time making
ponderous,
it up as I go
but the
along.
developers missed out on the fact that the Iron Man suit also augments the wearer's strength and speed. You should be able to outpace the world's fastest runners rather than be forced to check your email and compose grocery lists in between getting from one end of the room to the other. Fortunately, you can hover and cover ground much faster, but the hover ability drains energy from your reserves and only recharges over time. Do yourself a favor and upgrade your energy efficiency and recharge abilities to the max before you upgrade
it's my
anything
fault?
else. But this walking and hovering thing is kind of a big deal because you're going to be constantly hovering from one place to another and flicking your attention back and forth from your energy reserve to the action in front of you. Walk, hover, over and over. Which is a strange gameplay mechanic for two reasons. The first being that there are flying stages in which it seems that the Iron Man suit can fly for hundreds of miles without a problem, but can't get to the end of a hallway without coasting on fumes and then crashing into a heap. And the second reason being that it's just a strange and puritanical way of designing a game. It reminds me of that old Wolverine game for the NES where you couldn't use Wolverine's claws without draining his life meter, which is pretty much the opposite of the Wolverine character we know and love. We can't just let the players hover in the Iron Man suit all they want, goes the reasoning. The players might have too much fun. Instead of limiting Iron Man in order to give the appearance of challenging gameplay, they should have made the Iron Man suits hyperkinetically fast and viciously powerful, and then present equally dangerous foes in order to pose a challenge, rather than present a horde of weak foes and then limit the armor in order to balance out the already flawed gameplay. It is fun to upgrade the various sets of Iron Man armor. You can even play as War Machine, though it's kind of sad that all of the suits play very, very similarly. Still, the upgrade system does allow for some customization, as you can choose which new weapons to unlock, whether to focus on offense or defense, and so on. You can even reload old stages and try out a different suit or tactic, though I'm not sure why anyone would want to. A taut, gripping story could have helped to hold up the weak gameplay and simple level design, but once the game has been played once, there is little in the narrative to help support a second playthrough. Heck, there's barely enough in the narrative to even support a single playthrough. The story itself is like one of those filler stories from the comics, in which a mad villain hatches a plot, launches an attack, is tracked down by Stark and pals, and is then stomped down. Which is strange, considering that there are plenty of amazing Iron Man stories available, seeing as the Iron Man 2 game is already completely different from the Iron Man 2 movie. For instance, there was not too long ago a pretty amazing Marvel Universe Civil War storyline. In it, Tony Stark headed up the controversial Superhuman Registration Act, in which all the heroes had to choose whether to go along with the establishment's tyrannical new laws in the name of peace, or rebel and risk disorder or even death at the hands of former friends. Just imagine a game where you play as Tony Stark trying to protect the world through an oppressive Superhuman Registration Act, and you end up fighting Wolverine, who is in open rebellion, and Captain America is switching sides left and right, and even the Hulk shows up in there somewhere. Now, that would be a game much more memorable than villain XYZ is attacking us, but we've tracked him down, so let's go beat the crap out of him and then call it a day. The graphics are adequate. All of the suits look very cool and distinct from one another, but the 3D worlds are all very plain. They don't look bad or even drab, but they certainly aren't very engaging. They don't capture the imagination the way a world inhabited by superheroes should. The music is by far the best part of Iron Man 2. The thing is, none of the songs are particularly memorable or even good in the sense that you should own the soundtrack, but the developers knocked the soundtrack out of the park by actually using heavy metal music. And it's great because if you're making a game about violent combat between powerful beings wearing suits of armor, what could be better than a metal soundtrack? Keep in mind, none of the songs are very complex. They run on pretty tight loops, but the riffs going on in each of those short loops is great for a combat-heavy action game. Heavy metal is played in video games far too infrequently, and I'm sure the truth of why a heavy metal sound was used in Iron Man 2 has more to do with the fact that Black Sabbath's Iron Man song was used at the end of the first movie. Plus, the Iron Man suit is made out of metal, thus heavy metal may have been chosen as a sort of audio pun rather than the fact that for an action game, nothing in this world could sound more appropriate than metal. I've been gaming for over 2 decades now, and I'm still waiting for the action game that perfectly fuses brutal gameplay with a heavy metal soundtrack. There have been a few close calls, but that game still has not been made. So I guess in the meantime, we're stuck with Iron Man 2.
What's the current situation?
Jarvis is offline. I'm trying to get him back up ASAP.
Tony, what can we do to help?
Got it covered, Nick. We'll get Jarvis back online and find out what information has actually been stolen. Got it. Down for the second.
Stark, we're looking at the DAT scan and it's not a pretty picture. We're picking up a large contingent of Roxxon soldiers heading your way.
restored. Running diagnostics.
One more system to go.
Activated. Initiating archive search to trace the data transfer. Please do secure the facility, sir. These guests of yours are making me uncomfortable.
Great to hear from you again, Jarvis. I'm heading back home.
Great to be back, sir.
All done on the ground, ladies and gents. Coming in. And get ready to work. I've been doing some thinking. This was a kidnapping.
What?
Kidnapping? There was nobody there to kidnap.
I shall try not to be offended, Colonel Rhodes.
Thank you, Jarvis. See, kids, this whole thing was to cover the attempted kidnapping of my butler. There was a massive data transfer during the fight. Jarvis is the only file array that large.
Who could possibly be qualified or capable of running a system that massive?
Not to pat myself on the back,
Of course not.
but what makes Jarvis Jarvis is that he learns. He has experiences and memories thanks to a massive neural web.
You'd need a lot of hardware and power for that. That means government backing.
Russia has been persistent about licensing an Iron Man program from us. Maybe they got tired of being told "niet" and made a deal with Roxxon.
Roxxon's the only source of viable combat drones out there after they bought out Hammer.
But Russia wouldn't risk this.
Not officially, but I know who would. General Valentin Shadolov.
Didn't he just declare himself emperor or something?
President. He controls the Tesla energy program for the Russian military.
With Roxxon hardware, his insurrection might succeed.
Gold stars for everyone. Jarvis, we're going east. Cheers, everybody. We're about to shut down a rogue Iron Man program before it has a chance to get anybody killed.
I don't mean to rain on anyone's parade, but entering Russian airspace is a bit beyond my pay grade.
No worries. We'll just hitch a ride the rest of the way. Stormbreaker 1, this is Rain Man.
This is Stormbreaker 1. What can we do for you today, Rain Man?
You're looking good, Nikki. Say, can we...
A little respect wouldn't hurt.
Of course. Permission to land, Director. Oh, and we'd like to look around a little bit. Inside Russia, near the Tesla.
We're responding to a direct request from the Russians now. Separatists have seized control of the Tesla facility using a heavy battle platform we've not seen before.
10 get you 20, we've seen it before. We just had a minor incursion into the Stark archives. The kind that leaves smoking craters.
I don't like coincidences.
And I don't believe in them. This is connected. Trust me.
Tony, I'm picking up UN radio chatter. Looks like General Shadolov is showing his true colors.
We need to put this meeting on hold and go be heroes.
Priority 1 is to establish a shield perimeter around the refinery. Expect resistance.
Quick scan, Jarvis. Do we have civilians in the combat zone?
Yes, sir. They may require your assistance.
Okay. Let's try to keep them off the casualty list. Try to remain calm. What's the situation here?
Please, help us! This is not a fight. Find our comrades. They have the code to open this gate.
It's not your time. Where are your friends?
We were separated. I do not know.
No problem. We'll track them down. Jarvis?
My indications suggest moving into the refinery, sir.